Hi all, I hope you're having a great day today. My name is Sarah and I'm an illustrator. This video today is just going to be a little bit different as it's the first in a series where I explore artists from the past and present, learn about them, learn about their styles, and then I strive to do either a master study or a new piece of my own done in their style. This is so I can broaden my own knowledge and my skill set, and hopefully you will learn something too. Also, little side note, I do apologize for anything I say or pronounce incorrectly, as I'm American and not French. Thank you. The first artist I'm going to be looking at is George Barbier, born George Augustin Barbier on October 16, 1882 in Nantes, France. He died March 19, 1932 in Paris, France. So sad, too young. He belonged to the Art Deco art movement, although I can definitely see the Art Nouveau inspiration in some of his pieces. Much of Barbier's work was created through the medium of pochoir print. In this method, a stencil is used, allowing the artist to hand color the print using watercolor or gouache. The technique was especially popular in the earlier part of the 20th century. Barbier was named one of the great French illustrators of the 20th century. He was 29 years old when he mounted his first exhibition in 1911 and was subsequently swept to the forefront of his profession with commissions to design theater and ballet costumes, to illustrate books, and to produce haute couture fashion illustrations. For the next 20 years, Barbier led a group from the École des Beaux-Arts who were nicknamed by Vogue the Knights of the Bracelet, a tribute to their fashionable and flamboyant mannerisms and style of dress. During his career, Barbier also turned his hand to jewelry, glass, and wallpaper design, wrote essays and many articles for the prestigious Gazette du Bon Temps. In the mid-1920s, he worked with Erte to design sets and costumes for the Folies Bergère, and in 1929, he wrote the introduction for Erte's acclaimed exhibition and achieved mainstream popularity through his regular appearances in L'Illustration magazine. Barbier also did the illustrations for the 1920s edition of a book of erotic lesbian poetry, Les Chansons de Bilitis, by Pierre Louis. These poems are written in the character of an ancient Greek poetess, Bilitis, who was similar to Sappho. Gotta love some representation. So awesome. I first heard of Barbier just last week when I was on Facebook Marketplace, because I am obsessed with going on Facebook Marketplace and looking for French provincial furniture. Even though I have nowhere to put it, it's like an addiction of mine. Anyways, there was someone selling a framed piece from George Barbier. It was Au clair de la lune, and it is the piece on the screen right now. It was so gorgeous and I was so captivated by it. The colors, the structure, the simplicity of it all. I fell in love and I was like, I need to know who this is. So I kept researching and I couldn't get enough of his art. Every piece I just wanted to frame and put on my wall. I actually do have a couple pieces now that I am framing and putting on my wall. But his art just really spoke to me. And I was like, how could I have never heard of this artist? I need to learn more. I bet others would like his art too. And that's how I came up with this idea for this series of let me explore different artists, learn something, expand my skills, and I bet other people would be interested too. There's a whole world out there that we don't get to learn about. After seeing a bunch of his work, I knew that I immediately wanted to make The Birth of Venus by Sandro Botticelli into his style. In analyzing his work, the first thing I looked at was anatomy. As you can see here, the anatomy is very simple. It isn't overly worked. Simple lines, simple curves, no sharp edges really whatsoever. And I really wanted to keep true to that. From there, I looked at environment. From these, you can see there isn't a lot of detail. There's just enough to suggest where you are, get a feel for what it's going to be like, maybe feel for the weather. Then the rest is left up to your imagination to fill in the gaps, which is great because I suck at environments, so this was really nice for me. Then there's his line art. Very simple, one thickness, no frills. And what I really like about it is even though it is simple, he was able to convey texture so well. Like in any of the fur pieces or their hair, you understand what texture that's supposed to be, even though it's just simple lines. After that is color palette. What I really like is he has such bold color choices, but they do tend to fall into a complementary palette. As you can see with the red and green, the blue and orange, and then again with the red and green with a little bit of blue. It's just so simple, so striking, and it makes such a difference. The last feature I'll look at is rendering. And here, Barbier doesn't really render a lot. A lot of what he's trying to convey is used in lines and tone, but you can see on the knees or around the face, there might be some blushing and shading to show the liveliness of the bodies, which I think is great. And beyond that, it's very simple, very easy. You can honestly get more of the tone of the paper and the medium he used, like with the gouache or the watercolor, adding its own nice subtle texture. If you are interested in learning more about George Barbier, I have listed all my sources in the description. Feel free to go check those out. Now let's get started into the piece that I was creating. I knew in the end that I wanted this piece to be done traditionally, but I started doing my sketch digitally this time around just because I haven't been feeling that great, and it's just a lot easier to have my iPad than all the tools for a traditional sketch. And I think it went pretty well. I actually kind of like this method because in the end, my paper wasn't erased 5 million times like I usually do, and it was just like a nice clean transition. While I was doing this sketch, I did have on my phone a bunch of his reference photos, a bunch of his art, just everything I could look at that would help me influence my art and my sketch. I especially paid attention to how he did his waveforms, how he did flowers, his environments, and even just down to anatomy. For that, I did have the Birth of Venus up, but I also had his George Barbier's pieces as well. Drawing the face was definitely different than how I normally draw. It was a lot more stylized, a lot more simple, and I really enjoyed it, although it did put me out of my comfort zone a little bit. I feel like sometimes we always try and strive for the prettiest, the most beautiful, but here was just kind of nice to just be like, here's the face, here's the eye. She's okay, she's pretty, she's a little handsome, but it's fine. That's what we want. The hair was so much fun to draw. I usually just love drawing hair anyways, but this was just great. Sandro Botticelli does a great job with the original Birth of Venus, and I just really wanted to capture that. And while there isn't a sun in the original piece from Botticelli, I just thought it would be a great framing technique, and I really liked it. I thought Barbier would like it too. For this, I got out my handy dandy light box and started taping up the piece that I printed just like on normal computer paper. And then I got some really thick 100% cotton watercolor paper, which can sometimes be a little stressful to use. I'm not that familiar with watercolor. This is actually probably my only second time doing watercolor ever, and I really enjoy it, but the paper is so textured and so thick that just even drawing on it with the Micron pen like I did here, it was hard to control my lines. So while it stressed me out, I do like the process, and I think it's good to challenge yourself with different mediums and learn something new. And I just hoped I didn't fuck it up too bad. Once all the line work was finished, I went ahead and cut away the extra sides for the paper, bringing it down to an 8x10 just because I knew I wanted to frame this piece, and 8x10s are readily available frames I have access to. From here, I got all my brushes and my watercolor set ready. Again, I am no master of watercolor. This is probably my second full piece I've actually done. Don't quote me on anything I do. I don't know if it's accurate. There's probably better ways to do it, but how I do it works for me, and I like how it came out. If you're curious about any of the products that I use or any of the brushes, I will list them in the description below. The brush that I'm using is off of a set I got on Amazon, and I am so surprised at how good quality it is. I used one brush for this whole piece, as you can see, and it did not lose its form or structure at all. Sometimes I've used brushes and they start really fine point and it's great, and then they start to just spread and like fray out, and I just can't keep using them to get the precision that I need. This brush did not change. It was amazing. I used it even just for the lips, for all the small details, everything. It was perfect. I highly recommend this brush set, and this was just one brush I used. They have some really tiny ones, and I can't wait to experiment with those. While I didn't stick strictly to a very solid complementary color tone or palette like Barbier did, I still wanted to keep a lot of the color tones from the original Birth of Venus painting. So here you can see, like, I have the shells, the sky, the green, all that. But I did try to keep the tones similar so that there's a lot of blues, the green has a lot of blue in it, but then you also have the peachy, orangey warm tones to sort of give the illusion of complementary colors. I tried. I think it turned out great. Don't get too down if your palette never works the way you want it to. If you like it in the end, that's fine. All that matters. And here we have my final piece. And while I might not be 100% happy with it, what I really like that this piece did is it really inspired me. Barbier's work made such an impact on me that I am so excited to start working on other projects in such a similar style and really live in that simplicity, those simple lines, the simple colors, to just express emotions in a scene or characters. I'm just so excited to do it, and I hope you stick around to see all the other pieces I make. If you are a part of my Patreon, you will be getting this design as a 5x7 print for the February design of the month. And if you're not on my Patreon yet, I highly recommend you join. You can join for free to see all the cool sketches and thoughts and art dumps that I do over there. We'd love to have you foster a safe community of fun, creative people. Hope to see you there. And as always, thanks for watching.